So coming up next, we got Eddie and Monsanto. Eddie and Monsanto are going to both ban that warrior. Neither player queuing up that druid, and it looks like with Saiyan's Bring of Druid, it didn't work out. Again, we've seen druid do wonderful things. If you go back to the very beginning of the round robin stages, Language Hacker was destroying with Spell Druid for a while, or was it the beginning of Swiss tournaments? It was the Swiss tournaments. However, it seems like druid just kind of seems like a you live or die by it, and it looks like Saiyan died.
Yeah, high highs and low lows, I think is the moral of the story, or the theme for the Spell Druid deck, it seems like. But no druids in this next match. We've got Warlock Demon Hunter for Eddie, and then Warlock Rogue Demon Hunter for Monsanto.
Yeah, that's going to be a no warrior match, but we do have the Hunter versus that Rogue like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And with the Highlander Hunter in particular, I still think that might be the proper bring, only because you want to maximize your chances of being that Quest Warlock. That seems to be the X factor, right? And for a while, like several points during that game, it felt like Nalgadon, had he tapped into a specific order differently, he would have had much more better tempo options. But maybe low key, getting that 0 mana spell could just have been even better, because it maybe have lured Saiyan to a false sense of security, because he thought he was safe at 30 health.
Oh, he was like, who wouldn't think they were safe? Yeah, you can't blame him for that. Right, that's for sure.
He would have to have Alex Straza plus Bird to kill me, and he's already demonstrated that he doesn't have that kind of stuff, because he would have probably used it on himself.
Yeah. Now that was you can't blame just Saiyan for the last couple turns for sure with that. But here's Monsanto's decks. What do you think about both of these players bringing Blowtorch Saboteurs in their Demon Hunter lists?
Blowtorch Saboteur. I'm willing to be open-minded. We talked about the Netherwalker for the players who are for delay, right? Because he's bringing a Tibble Demon Hunter. It seemed like he wants to beat up more Warlocks, although I'd be willing to stay corrected if he chose otherwise. But Blowtorch Saboteur is also particularly interesting because it also is a different way to target Quest Warlock, because your opponent's next hero power costs 3, but still kind of makes it 0. So I don't think it's for the Quest Warlock. I think that this is more geared towards the mirror.
I agree. Yeah. The fact that both of them brought it is kind of interesting. I like the first thing I always look at with a card is just the stats, and a 3 for a 3/4 always feels good. But the fact that the hero power does get nerfed a little bit, and that it becomes 2 more expensive in the case of the Demon Hunter mirror, I think is a big deal. I think you're right. It does seem like a mirror tech, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's where Eddie's going to find his edge. A lot of players, they're going to be searching for all these incremental margins to try and gain an advantage against a specific deck. Some people are going to choose the 4th decks, right? Okay, if people are going to bring Druid or Rogue as a 4th deck, maybe I bring in a Hunter to try to be aggressive against both of them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, etc. But targeting a deck that everyone else is bound to bring, like Warrior and Demon Hunter, is something that I'm more a fan of. Although I do agree that targeting Warrior seems silly right now in the metagame, so probably best to target Demon Hunter.
Exactly. So we've got Demon Hunter versus Rogue for the first match, or the first game rather, between Eddie and Monsanto. And the Rogue is running, as you can see, the secret package. Ambushing the opening hand there for Monsanto. We'll see if he keeps it, but not opting for the stealth package with that. And a pretty solid early hand for Eddie. You've got the Battle Mage, but you've also got the Battle Fiend as well.
The fires of vengeance.
Everybody's battling.
Yep. That's kind of what it is. Hearthstone is a card battle game.
That's true.
I hope so. I hope it is, at least. Otherwise, I've been miscategorizing it for more than half a decade now.
Once in a while it becomes like a cooperative card game, but most of the time it's a card battling game. I would agree. And now it's even in part of the client, it's even an auto battling game.
Yeah, I guess so. When are we gonna get our Battlegrounds Grandmasters? China's already doing it.
Yeah, I would love to see more
I wanna
Battlegrounds
know.
tournaments.
That's what I want to know. Monsanto does have a way to deal with this pressure, but it does cost him several life to do that. So
Sure.
if he chooses to dagger down this battle mage and then seal fate, it might be too slow. Evil Miscreant is one of the better cards against aggro because you can get Kobold Lackey or Titanic Lackey, and in the end, Evil Miscreant also absorbs 4 damage if your opponent trades into it.
Yeah, I kind of like that the best. Where, wow, 2 Goblin Lackeys. Okay, well, that's probably not the greatest thing ever, but at least you're gonna have a little bit of stuff on the board. Back over to Eddie.
Yeah. So for Eddie, I wonder if this I-Beam actually ends up making more sense than the Frozen Shadow Weaver, because then he gets the Frozen Shadow Weaver on turn 4 while still weaving in his hero powers. If you play Frozen Shadow Weaver, it might actually be something similar to what we saw with Zolay's deck, where it just kind of whiffs on certain key points and you might lose momentum.
You're gonna find better targets the later the game goes, I suppose, with Frozen Shadow Weaver. And you do get the hero power to buff up your Battle Fiend if you go for the I-Beam play as well.
Yeah, it's just it's like he's not actually really developing anything meaningful. That's like the only big problem, and that's a very big problem for Demon Hunter because Demon Hunter wants to operate similar to Rogue, which is to be a minion ahead of their opponent. Although Demon Hunter is so good and efficient, sometimes it can get 2 to 3 minions ahead of their opponent and keep leveraging all that big board to deal damage. So it looks like Eddie's like, I really need development more than anything. Whoa, that Shadow Step draw. I wonder how good that is.
I was gonna say, is there a world where you Shadow Step the Evil Miscreant here?
I'm definitely entertaining it because the Miscreant could be rushed, and then another Lackey can be rushed. But then he's off by a little bit of damage. You can't kill that Frozen Shadow Weaver unless he double Goblin Lackey something.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the guarantee of getting the Kobold Lackey.
Huh.
This is close. This is close. I would say there's a 1 in 13 chance for Monsanto.
Or 100% chance.
Get exactly the 2 lackeys.
I believe. Well, you got a Titanic Lackey and a Draconic Lackey. Okay.
Meme. The meme did not come true.
Well, I mean, you do have some board clear here with one of your Goblin Lackeys from the last time, at least.
Yeah, you're still removing 4 power on the board if you want a double rush here.
Yeah, it's not bad. All right, I think if you're Monsanto, you're going to be okay with that turn at least.
For people who don't know, Monsanto actually started a Twitter debate about what are the odds that you get 2 Titanic Lackeys from an Evil Miscreant. It's actually specifically like the double Lackey Miscreant scenario.
Oh.
And he was saying how most people think it's 1 in 7, right? Because there's 7 Lackeys and you just get 1 in 7 and then...
1 in 7 twice, sure.
Right. Well, like it's the idea is that you've already seen the first Lackey, so what is the chance that he has the second one? And people said, "Oh, it's 1 in 7," and he argues that it's not 1 in 7.
I mean,
and
it seems like it would still just be 1 in 7, though, right? Because the first one doesn't affect the second
though,
one,
we
right?
can go this started like days
hey, you brought
of
it
conversation, and everyone started bringing up like different math examples. Some people were trying to bring out proofs, and players were like saying like it's okay that you're wrong. I don't judge you, and like. It got pretty passive aggressive, the way that us card gamers like to approach these very mature conversations.
Aggressive in the game, passive aggressive in real life.
Yes, I like that. And so Monsanto, but it's funny just because in that scenario, Monsanto specifically needed like, a Lackey to try to have impact, and it was funny that he had 2 of the same Lackey.
Clearly 2 1 in 7 chances, but that's just me. I'm not a math whiz.
And in some ways, I think he wished he still had another Rush Lackey. Still would have been very effective here to utilize that. Bone Wraith does not feel very reliable in this position, which is tough because it's your best play. But a Warglaives of Azzinoth absolutely dunks this Bone Wraith.
Oh, absolutely. It just doesn't do a lot of damage. You're talking like 6 damage from having to swing into it 3 times with the Warglaives. And then there's still another 5 getting through from what's on the board already for Eddie. There's that Blowtorch Saboteur in the hand as well. I think I like the Warglaves here for the other reason that it frees up you to possibly use Skull on turn 6, depending on the situation. But just having it on the end is nice too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess you give up the sidekick to finish off the last HP and keep another charge on your Warglaves. Makes the most sense. There's a Dirty Tricks. Secret for Monsanto in the hand.
Yeah, these secret openings aren't really important against the aggressive openings. It's better against the slower decks. You know, get against the Quest Warlock. That Seal Fate being unusable is annoying. And I think if I'm Monsanto, this might be a questing adventurer turn.
Yeah, just try to build a big one with like Titanic Lackey maybe.
Right. Well, I think you would just contest. You just contest the board. Basically,
Right.
You play the questing adventurer because you're not expecting it to carry, but you're just trying to like reduce the amount of pressure on board. And it's tricky because Monsanto could find potentially a dragon to play instead. Like, let's say he found a Draconic Lackey into a Twilight Drake. That would have potentially been better, but there's no
Very
guarantee
true.
of that.
Don't even want to think about what the odds of that are.
Oh no! Oh no! I regretted the moment those words left my mouth.
You can't predict that.
Yeah.
Can't
And
predict
even
that.
then, I think this is still better than the Twilight Drake,
Yeah.
just because you don't want it to run away with the board.
Well, this was the safer play, right? This was the play where it was a known quantity. You knew the strength you were going to get on the board. Still better than taking the big risk to get the Twilight Drake, even though he did find it, you know? If he
Right.
would have played it first, he would not have found it. That's how these things work. Back over to the Eddie side of things, though. Chaos Strike was the draw, so he can get rid of the Questing Adventure pretty easily. And I don't think you Skull of Gul'dan this turn. Never mind. I shouldn't have said it.
The moment you do it, you plant the idea into his brain.
That's right.
I think that Skull Gul'dan makes the most sense because this was a weak turn from the rogue.
Yeah.
But wow, is this going to hurt?
Very good turn now.
Yeah. And he gets to swing again with that extra slice.
Yep. Important thing to note.
Yeah.
So that one attack after the weapon goes away.
Okay, this prep. Oh, wow.
Huh.
He has the Heist Baron Togwoggle for the treasure, but if he does, he's going to die. So,
Yes.
oh my gosh, this might be like a prep Seal Fate turn.
Is there any other way out of it? Because you don't
Oh.
have the Titanic Lackey anymore, right?
There used to be, I mean, back when prep discounted to 3 for several years in Hearthstone, now it discounts to only 2. The Togwoggle gave you the treasure, you'd be immediately able to use the preparation to get that card out. In this case, I'd argue that Monsanto probably would have used the treasure to probably have to draw cards. I think the
Possibly,
Discover a Legendary and summon 2 of it would be too weak.
Possibly. Hey, when developers name stuff like Heist Baron Togwaggle, you have to accept that people are gonna struggle to pronounce that once in a while.
Oh.
That's
so
on them. Wow. All right.
Monsanto says, my best chance to win is you have no damage, except Demon Hunter deck is like 25 cards of damage.
I was gonna say, yeah. Asking a Demon Hunter with a hand size that big to not have damage is a low odds ask.
I think that actually might be statistically impossible.
Could be.
But I would have to just check exactly how many cards Eddie has in his deck that don't directly just correlate damage.
Sure.
It holds 6 or 7 of them.
All right. Well,
So,
Eddie wins game 1. There you go. Interesting game. But it seemed like the Rogue never really got going, did it?
no, but that's partially because Demon Hunter's so good at putting on the pressure. And you can see why the gamble that people have, like Muzzy, for example, didn't ban the Warrior, banned Demon Hunter, and some other
Yeah.
people chose to do the same. and it worked out. So overall, strategy that's completely viable. Demon Hunter's crushing it, and we'll see if we have that momentum for Eddie follow through as we get ready for game number 2. In the meantime, that leads us to our next break and intermission. So after a few minutes, when we return, we're going to have Eddie and Monsanto play out the rest of this best of 5. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americans.
Hearthstone Grandmasters is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network. T-Mobile.
Mm. これってハースストーンに乗りたいって意味でいいのか
Okay, let me think. 노자리요. 긴 비행 중에 체력이 딸려도 그 생명력 잘 채워줄 것 같아가지고.
我应该会选那个死亡之翼吧，因为我觉得它那个动画特效特别酷，因为它骑上来应该也蛮酷的。
I'll choose Death Wing。ハースストーンのカードに乗るとしたらデスウィングに乗りたいですね。
デスウィングわかりました。
I want to ride Isra because I think his human form is really beautiful.
Cool.
아렉스트라자? 是红龙。为什么？因为我只有想到这一条龙啊。Rich Alexstrasza？ 2个吗 ？Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Everybody, welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas region. Coming up, we have game number 2 between Eddie and Monsanto. It was a pretty back and forth series for the first one that we had of the day, but the second one, we'll see how it continues to develop. Monsanto did end up playing that rogue in the first game and losing, so he's the one that we're focusing on because he needs to get those wins to improve his chances to avoid the relegation bracket.
Right, and he's got an opportunity now that Just Saiyan has lost his match just a little bit ago. Now, I guess the pressure's on Monsanto a little bit more to perform because you've got a slightly greater likelihood now of actually escaping that relegation bracket.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that, you take a look at the field here, it just still feels like there's a chance for Monsanto to come back, despite the fact that he lost that first game. So
Sure.
I'm not too worried about it.
It's only one game. We've got a lot more to play in this series here. Eddie still needs a win with his Warlock and his Hunter. Monsanto obviously needing a win with everything. You could argue that Rogue is going to be the toughest deck to find that win with, but we'll see what happens. There's still a lot more games to be played.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen that people go up 2-0 and then get reverse swept, just like we saw in the previous series.
Sure.
So don't worry too much for all those Monsanto fans out there. Taking a look at the next game coming up, we got Warlock versus Demon Hunter, a matchup that seems to be good for the Demon Hunter, but if it gets to a certain point in the game, it feels like Demon Hunter can't compete anymore.
Right.
Because Warlock either has too much heal, or they just start to get those free cards and they can't keep up in that tempo.
That's definitely the case. This is one of those games where the Demon Hunter almost needs to play like an aggro deck and less like a tempo deck and just try to get as much damage done early as you can. But it seems like it's a rough matchup.
Yeah.
The Warlock has a lot of healing, a lot of board control. It can play to the late game. So it'll be a bit of a struggle.
All right, full mulligan here for Monsanto. Eddie, I kind of like his entire hand here. This is kind of hard for me to justify throwing any of this away. What do you think, Doa?
I love it, actually. You've got the quest. Well, you're always going to have the quest. But you've got Questing Explorer, which is great for turn 2. You've also got the combination of Morag Artificer and Dark Skies, which handles pretty much any Demon Hunter board in the early game. So, yeah, you've got a great board to start things off with. And Eddie keeps. I can't blame him.
Yeah, 4 keep. That's scary. If you're going up against this, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, seriously.
4 keep is extremely powerful. But, not going to sweat it too much, I think.
You can see Monsanto knowing, too, that he just needs to put as much damage in as possible, as fast as possible, if he wants a chance of beating this Warlock. And already that feels bad, too. Questing Explorer coming down and presenting that 2-3, but he's got the freeze.
And the freeze is important just to keep that Battle Mage on the board. Makes Dark Skies worse, so he can't just rip it. Or if he does, he risks, of course, destroying his own minion.
Yeah. But just something as simple as Nether Breath is such a challenge for Monsanto to overcome, because 4 points of healing is big, right?
Yes, or at least it should be.
Yeah.
Demon Hunter sometimes doesn't care if it theoretically sounds good or not. That's the only thing.
Sure.
I grow impatient.
Do you go for... Well, because you want to establish the board with something like the Battle Fiend, but it gets cleared so easily by the Explorer. You don't have another way to freeze it. Blorchard Saboteur and Hero Power may be the way to go.
Yeah, this is still just a lot of pressure, and if you do trade this off, Dark Skies is, I think, the only card that can clear.
Yeah.
And it's inefficient. So I like it. I think it's fun.
And even if you... how do you feel about clearing that Explorer? Because if you didn't, and you just attacked in and got the extra 3 damage done, your opponent would probably have to trade to set up a better Dark Skies anyway, right? So what do you think about it?
If he didn't have Dark Skies, though, the payoff was much higher, and you avoid things like Mortal Coil and whatnot to really wreck your board. So
Sure.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I think it's not ideal, of course, based on what you're talking about, right? Because obviously losing your board to Dark Skies doesn't feel good.
Definitely doesn't. Debating on whether or not to play the Battle Fiend here.
Yeah, and so Monsanto kind of respecting the Nether Drake or Netherwing, because if you knew Netherwing wasn't in the hand, I'm very sure he would have considered playing the Satyr Overseer instead to establish that board.
And this is this is almost a death blow by itself. Losing your Kane Blood Fury, your opponent heals for 8. I think if you're Monsanto right now, you're already wondering how in the world do I ever build a board that takes that much health off of them.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the setup for Skull Gul'dan either.
Yeah.
I grow
which is
impatient.
the worst feeling.
Yep. It's one of those games where the concede card is starting to look like the most appealing one.
Not yet.
There,
It's close. We're close to that point. But
Sure.
Not yet.
there's always a, well, there's not always a chance, but there's sometimes a chance. He's gonna just build the biggest board he can.
Yeah, I like it. I actually would like him to punch this Mohawk too to make Netherwing worse.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter though, because if he does raise Netherwing, he can just hero power the following turn.
Sure.
Jeez, though.
Wow.
This Abyssal Summoner is brutal.
Wow, the 2 damage Mortal Coil too is such a big punish on the Battle Fiend.
Yeah. Although, he does have the benefit of the Mortal Artificer for his own size, so now he can actually use Eye Beam to double up and kill the summon for the Abyssal Summoner.
Fair point.
So, and then he could use the Umberwing afterwards. This ends up being alright here for Monsanto.
He's clearing.
We're with you.
He's able to get some minions through at least. Alright. Deciding on what he wants to do with the 4/3. It is 4 damage to face. You know, honestly, though, with everything 3 health or lower, the Morag Artificer doesn't really have a big impact on whether or not your opponent can clear your board.
Right.
So that's the question. Do you just not care about it and go to face, or do you take out the 2/4?
Demons.
Save your Satyr Overseer.
Grow short.
Tough one.
It is. I guess you're not saving it either way, though, because there's still going to be a 2/2.
Right.
Go to face. You know you need to. You need that 4 damage, Monsanto.
Patient.
I think killing the Morag
Aw.
Artificer still is better because the threat of Rain of Fire, but yeah, generally
Yeah.
speaking, I think it is like a really good call.
Rain of Fire is the only thing. Hey, I agree. Oh, no. Oh, what can you do, you know? Skull of
This is
Gul'dan.
brutal. Okay, Skull
Yep.
Gul'dan still gives you lots of opportunities here, and I think we're still hopeful, but yeah, this is looking dicey.
Sure
Okay.
is. Alright, well,
He finds Metamorphosis.
you've got the Warglaves of Azonoth there.
Yeesh.
Yeah, it's another Warglaves. Kind of wishes he would have found a Metamorphosis there to put on top. Unfortunate. Unfortunate for Monsanto.
Yeah, this is looking bad.
Yeah. So there's a plot twist in the hand of Eddie right now, a couple of them, and you're starting to kind of maybe think you could use a bit of healing from the Brood Mothers.
Yes, I think that is definitely the biggest concern that I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you plot twist here. Got a 5/5 already. You're nearly done with completing the quest. I think if he draws a Sense Demons and Hero Powers, he does complete the quest, I believe. Didn't get one, though.
It's tough, quite honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I think that these kinds of positions that it's like, how do you really salvage a situation that feels like completely unwinnable to you? And I think the answer is that a lot of times it really doesn't feel like.
Yeah, I think it's definitely feeling unwinnable. There's another Warglaves. We knew that was going to be the draw anyway. Just no minions to push damage with Monsanto, and just not enough burst from hand. You can't really, use the Warglaves on the Nether Drakes or anything like that. You're looking for like maybe an Altruist play would be nice, but the draw didn't come through. So you can just basically hope that your opponent doesn't have 2 damage from hand,
Right.
which we already
And
know Eddie does.
Eddie does have it. Oh. in this position, I think Monsanto just has to really hope for the best possible outcome, and unfortunately for him, it's really not anywhere near ideal. And he had that damage, and this game is over.
It hurts to watch. But it does look like it's going to be a 2-0 lead for Eddie. All he needs to do is just toss out the Soulfire, and that is the end of the game.
All right, so 2-0 very quickly for Eddie, and Monsanto's worries continue here.
Yeah.
And some more questions kind of surrounding whether or not Monsanto can bring it back.
Well, you know, we did see the reverse sweep in our first series of the day, so we know it's possible. We've already seen it once.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not likely, but
no, it's never likely.
I'm holding out for some like remote possibility that he's able to get there. Yeah, it's looking bad right now.
The more games, the merrier. But
yeah,
Eddie only needing a win with the Hunters. So now that Monsanto knows the deck he's going to be facing against, what do you bring out first? You have to get a win with everything, but what's your comfort pick here? Maybe what would you go with?
That's a good question here. Comfort picks, in my opinion, right now are like generally whatever you like. I guess for Monsanto, he really likes to play combo-oriented decks or like really complicated decks in general.
Sure.
So I'd probably lean closer to something like that. But yeah, I don't know. This is a tough spot to be in here for him. I think he just has to kind of play whatever he feels like he is ultimately the best at. I mean, Monsanto was one of the first people playing Quest Warlock back in the day. Believe it or not, so maybe that gives him some semblance of confidence.
It's not a terrible matchup into Hunter, but ultimately the matchups don't really matter, right? Because you need to get a win with everything anyway. But I do think it is valid to sort of theorize about what players feel the most comfortable with, and Monsanto did indeed go with that Warlock deck.
Yeah,
he's got to win 3 in a row against the Highlander Hunter, which is probably not a deck that you can oftentimes count on winning 3 in a row against.
Yeah, again, Demon Hunter isn't something that is very commonly like losing against these Hunter decks. So overall, I still like playing it here. Just again, it hasn't really worked out the way he's wanted to.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I said Warlock. That's clearly a Demon Hunter, isn't it? Hey, they both use Fell Energy, all right?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, give yourself some credit.
There is a skull of a Warlock on the screen right in front of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, Hunter versus Demon Hunter. And the tracking turn 1 into a lot of stuff you don't want to throw away, but you got to keep the Diamond Tamer brand, right?
I think that's one of the more important cards in this matchup for sure, or just every matchup for Hunter. I would say against this matchup in particular, though, Diamond Tamer brand seems to be one of those really big hits or a really big miss. Hits in the sense that, like, what it allows you to do is that if Demon Hunter ends up stumbling and falling behind a little bit, you get to use Diamond Tamer brand to get really far ahead. So it's like a nice reversal card, like, all of a sudden, their opponent's pressuring you, you even out the board, then you play Diamond Tamer Brand, they have to answer you. The problem is, if your opponent has like a bunch of like 2/2s, 3/2s, 4/2s, you're probably going to sometimes need to trade with Diamond Tamer Brand. That feels like one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah. So in that case, you want to grab like a time match or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. A sign match. But this is always a really nice coin turn for Demon Hunter, getting that slightly buffed up Battle Fiend. Scavenger's Ingenuity grabs a Diving Griffin. Wow, really doesn't get much better than that.
It really doesn't. And I think that, for Monsanto, this development turn is huge, but for Eddie, keeping that curve consistent is really important too.
Right.
But him missing turn 1 and turn 2 for minions is a big deal.
Yeah, it definitely
is.
is.
Very big deal.
And even if you do drop the Griffin on the next turn, it's only going to clear one thing. And then it's going to get cleared fairly easily, I would say.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Where it's just like, I'm doing all this stuff and it doesn't feel like it matters anyways. But
I mean, at least you get 2 hits out of the Griffin, in theory.
Exactly.
Better than just a regular vanilla diving griffin anyway.
Ah, my word! I hate that flavor.
Vanilla diving griffin is the worst. At least give me like a nice Java chip diving griffin.
Exactly. Java chip. You have some exotic tastes over there.
I like the coffee flavored ice cream. What can I say? I don't know. I just like coffee flavored everything.
I'm sure the dragons do too. That's why their breath smells so bad.
Yeah, well, it burns. Or energizes, depending.
Yeah. Alex Straza especially has some coffee breath.
That's right. Yep. You can either kill or save with it. Just like coffee.
That's right.
And the breath that follows. So grabs the blade dance.
Interesting. Yeah, we saw this yesterday from Frozen and ended up working out really well. It's fairly clever, and I think that's what makes this specific card interesting, Volpera Scoundrel, to give you situational cards that might end up being like the actual nuts. So
right.
Really cool to see if it ends up coming into play. I'm not going to hold high expectations for it, and I think that's just to make sure to protect Monsanto from just like the wrath of like, wow, this card obviously was bad. Why'd you pick it? But overall, I'm excited to see if it ends up going.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely see it being beneficial, depending on the attack power, right?
Right.
Now this Bone Wraith is a little bit annoying to deal with.
Yeah, you can talk me into using I-Beam because then you can play the Glaive-bound Adepts. But the problem is that you want to hold on to this weapon swing so that Glaive-bound Adept can come out in 5, which means you have to commit to a couple of things and also float your mana, which all these options sound just really unideal.
You're investing a lot into the Glaive-bound Adept, and that can pay off.
Yes,
but it is an investment, right? And investments don't always pay off. Sometimes you buy a bunch of turnips and the prices just aren't good. You know? That happens sometimes.
And you really do cover a lot of games, huh?
I try. Well, I mean, you have to go, well, I guess you still have to go Glaive-bound Adept, right?
Yeah, I think the Glaive-bound Adept, the reason why it still looks good is just because of what it does. It covers the Skull of Gul'dantur too, so that way you're not like kind of floundering about. So yeah, he doesn't get the optimal use of Glaive-bound Adept to pressure. Like the optimal use of it is just to like play the Glaive-bound Adept, pressure your opponent's life total, and start threatening, and use Gul'dan afterwards to clear off the stuff.
Oh, this is a big steady shot. What's the Dragon Bang gonna do? Ooh, it did not hit the Adept. Monsanto's face. He's like, oh yeah.
That's a big moment.
Lucked out there.
Potentially a huge moment in this game, actually. But, incidentally,
Yeah.
I wonder if that ends up working out okay for Eddie if he plays Dino Tamer. Not a Dragon Tamer just yet. And then
That's true.
goes
He's getting there.
Yeah, one day.
That's right. It's going to be riding Nefarian into battle at some point. Although you'd have to do more time travel stuff to make that happen, I guess.
Right.
Ooh, spicy. Is he going to go to face with this? I actually don't mind that.
Right. Your opponent's not going to hero power next turn, right?
Probably not. It is a turn 7. That is the turn where you do expect to see the Dino Tamer brand come in. Brand, rather. Not the Dino Tamer brand. He isn't starting a whole business around it. Maybe he should.
Right?
Yeah.
He's like losing out on all those influencer dollars.
That's right. Hashtag Dino Tamer. Got to do it for the content.
Hashtag Dino Strong. Hashtag Dino Life. Hashtag
Right.
8 to the face.
Hashtag Dinos versus COVID-19. There you go.
Where do I donate?
Do it for the grams.
Jeez.
Well, it is a tough choice, isn't it? Now, as far as the Dino Tamer brand goes?
Yes. Very
Normally
much so.
that would be an easy one, but now you've got some stuff to think about. But the other thing too is that his hand isn't the greatest mana-wise as far as making another efficient turn 7 play. Like, what do you do? Like, Fairy Dragon and then Faceless Corruptor it?
You'll find me
There we go. He
goes
goes
with the Dino
like he's
Tamer.
just gonna go Dino Tamer. He's on a race.
Oh my gosh, it's happening.
Okay, he's gonna trade. Yeah, the trade makes
Wow.
sense. You're asking your opponent to not generate 4 damage, and your
Yeah.
opponent very much easily does. So, but this is what we're talking about, right? Like the Dino Tamer brain in this instance was like, well, we're just gonna play and trade because you're a little bit too far behind on board.
Yeah.
And now look at this blade
Here
dance.
it goes. Yep, this is going to clear the board. It's going to clear the enemy side of things. Yeah,
Nasty.
so it paid off. Big time. Wow, now Eddie's in a little bit of a rough spot here.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah. You've got the Faceless Corruptor play. You're down to 7 health right now. All right, yeah, that's just a win with the Glaive-bound Adept.
Yep, and there you go. Monsanto's finally on the board. Big damage, and that's enough to swing it in his favor. But this was, on paper, one of his best matchups, so can't just assume that it's going to go as easily for games number 4 and 5.
Yeah, you kind of expect that one to go that way, and it has begun. We saw reverse sweep in the first series of the day. Are we going to see another one? Monsanto has the first win out of 3 that he needs. Still needs a win with Rogue and Warlock, and those might be a little bit more tricky to come by against the Hunter. But hey, at least you got a point, right?
Right, exactly. And I think, it really just starts with one game at a time. But, the remaining decks that he has with Rogue and his Warlock could be the Achilles heel for Monsanto here, because Hunter is favored against both of them on paper. So if Monsanto were to do some of his crazy plays, and I mean, Monsanto is so good at recognizing a win condition from like having a very weird assortment of cards. It's one of his best attributes as a player. I feel like if I trust a player to play Rogue right now in a position like this, one of those top players as a candidate would be Monsanto.
Yeah. Well, choices to be made for the opening hands here. Eddie probably wants to throw a lot of that back. Monsanto throws a lot of his hand back as well, keeping the Blackjack Stunner, which you'd kind of expect.
Oh yeah, keeping Dragon
Ooh,
Queen.
Really?
All right. I mean, Zephyrs can ramp into it.
Yeah, I can see the line of play that Eddie's thinking about with this.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Queen
It is interesting.
one of the best cards in the game. It's just that it's really expensive, so...
Yeah. But it is a dragon for Rottennest Drake, and he did get a Blazing Battle Mage in his first draw, so not punished at all for the expensive hand. It's got a good curve, too.
Yep. I mean, like you said, the 1-drop is really important for the Hunter, and then has the Zephyrus into a Rottennest Drake, into question mark, into Alex Strauss' Profit.
Yeah.
I mean, Profit, yeah, because winning games does translate to money in Grandmaster.
True enough. Gotta start that Dino Tamer brand.
Yeah.
This is my suggestion.
And he's gonna drop the Zephyrus for the ramp. Easy choice to pick up the Wild Growth for turn number 3. And so on 4, he could coin into the Rottennest Drake, which is pretty crazy. That's a big body to put out and eliminate an opponent's minion at the same time at that stage in the game.
Gosh, it feels so bad to fight completely for tempo by using this, but I think it might be the answer. Backstab, ambush, and then Blackjack Stunner. It doesn't, like, again, it doesn't feel great, but I mean, maybe that's what you just have to go for here.
I mean, you remove the minions from the board at least.
Right.
Given the choices that Monsanto has right now, I don't think you can really argue with that play. It uses a lot, though. That's the thing. That's a lot of your hand resources dedicated to removing 5 damage from the board.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a lot of damage to invest into that. So
So I do like this though, because ambush will be theoretically a good answer for the Rotten Nest Drake.
Right.
If it comes down to that. But the timing might not work out for that. Although, maybe it will. I don't know. We'll see.
It's hard because it might disincentivize also because of the dirty secrets. Okay, that's a good draw here. Monsanto.
Yeah. Yeah, you're fine shadow stepping that blackjack stunner. It's going to still continue to be useful. Ooh, Faceless Lackey as well. All right. Building a little bit of a board here. Get the damage from the 3-1 at least.
Does he want to use Blackjack Stunner on his own minion? There's validity to that line of play.
I mean, yeah, if he thinks he needs another set of lackeys, perhaps, but I think it's better to wait. I think there's going to be a lot more stuff you're going to want to bounce that your opponent's going to throw at you.
Okay.
So suddenly the Rotten Nest Drake play does not seem all that appealing.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem all too good right now. And I
Yeah.
think, like, that's okay.
Well, he's got some other choices. Things like Evasive Feywing, though, die so quickly.
You really do, and you really want to, like, get ahead of that rogue, or at least control the state of it. So I think that if I'm Eddie, I still might just play stuff to try to absorb that damage, because that threat of ambush is gonna... You can't really play around it that much. Alternatively, it's just you play Stormhammer and the...
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
Blazing Battle Mage, 2 for a 2/2 is still not the worst ever.
Well, like, the logic behind this is that he wants to hold on to his coin, and
Oh, I like this.
he really needs to use that coin for Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. Otherwise, what was the point of all this? What was the point of ramping and holding the coin?
Yeah. You could have coined into the Rotten Nest Drake if that was a big threat to deal with, or, like you said, save for the Dragon Queen. But I like that he used the Blazing Battle Mage to pop the secret, was able to kill the ambusher with the weapon then. You lose a charge on the weapon, but it's still a nice little play.
Yeah.
That said, Monsanto is building a strong board right now.
Okay. How does that change things?
Unleash.
Diary Griffin and Unleash clears off almost all of this. Actually, does it clear everything off? Almost.
Everything except for 1 health on the Evil Miscreant, right?
Right. Because you definitely want to kill off the Lackey because of the High Spirit Hogwoggle. You definitely want to kill that 3-1.
Yeah, you always kill the Lackey here, right? Because you're going into turn 6 on your opponent's side.
Yes, that's my logic as well.
Yeah, so you don't want to give him the Lackey for the Togwaggle opportunity. That was a sentence said by a real human being. You don't want to give him the Lackey opportunity for the Togwaggle.
Oh yeah, when High Spirit and Togwoggle and, all that Rise of Evil shenanigans started surfacing, there were some weird sentences being crafted for the first time in human history.
Credit to Hearthstone and other esports for really breaking new ground in terms of strange sentences.
Yeah, inventing new languages.
Yeah, exactly. What does Pharaoh Cat bring us? Temple Berserker. Okay, that might be a little bit useful later.
Yeah, I mean, oh wow.
Oh, what
Look
are the
at all
odds
these
of that?
pairs. He's so ready to roll down and get triples and have him tier up.
Right? He's gonna get a golden. Well, they're already golden though. So what happens now?
I'm pretty sure when you play a golden minion, you discover a reward from a tavern tier bow. Yeah, Eddie here needs to find a way just to stall for one last turn, and he finds a pretty good option here. This Guardian Hog Merchant is low-key like one of the best draws in Eddie's deck, because now he can use that Basis Corruptor for board presence.
Yeah, true.
Still a bummer that he can't swing, but that's fine in the grand scheme of things.
he'll get an opportunity at some point.
Yeah. He can't
So you
stop.
Clear the lackey for sure.
Right. He can't stop the High Spear and Togwoggle from coming down next turn because he knows Monsanto has a lackey in hand, but he's still going to at least clean up as much as he can of it.
It's very true. Well, what do you think about Flick Skyshift here?
Love it.
Me too.
Only thing is that I think he's seeing a 4-keep. He saw a coin being kept for this long.
That's the other thing I was going to say is that he knows there's something big on the way.
Saw the wild growth.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that he knows that Dragon Queen Ashra is coming next turn, which might, in his mind, he might need Flick, and he might need Blackjack Stunner and whatnot, but...
That's the thing. Do you really want a Blackjack Stunner Dragon Queen Alexstrasza? I suppose it makes it unplayable, though, doesn't it?
It used to, and then it got recently
Oh, it doesn't.
changed.
You're right, yeah.
So, this
Still
patch,
behind.
very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, not super game-ending dragons, but still very good. Oh, ouch.
I mean, that was a pretty big twin worm there.
Yeah. All right, so this is the problem that we're kind of talking about. If he had the Flick, in this position it would have been better, but then he wouldn't have dealt with the Faceless Corruptor.
Right. The Faceless Corruptors would still be there wrecking him.
Yeah. Oh, this looks brutal.
It does. Looks pretty grim for Monsanto right now. Because you don't really have an answer in your hand for any of this.
Yeah.
You can Blackjack Stunner one of them, but you don't. I mean, it's all bad, right?
Yes. It's all very, very, very bad. And I take back what I said. Twin Tyrant was super nutty.
Anything being sent back to the hand now is just going to come back and do terrible things to you again.
Right, because they're battle cry oriented dragons.
Right. So, yeah, I guess you just ambush here and you send the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza back again. What?
I mean, that's what he needs to do to fight back for the tempo onto the board.
Yeah. You have to, and you do delay it again, I guess, for a little bit, but it's a rough spot for Monsanto right now.
I think this is the right line of play, but it's not great. Just because it's correct doesn't mean it's good.
And just because it's a good play doesn't mean it's going to do anything beneficial for you.
Right. Ambush immediately triggered. Eddie was very much aware of that, and I think he's going to avoid playing a secret.
Yeah, doesn't want to pop the dirty tricks with the spell or anything.
Yeah, Bamboozle has largely cycled out of a lot of the secret rogue decks because it's so counterproductive if you play like Edwin Van Cleef in Questing Adventures, so you just leave it out.
That's true. You don't want to bamboozle yourself.
Well, that's the ultimate bamboozle. The self-bamboozle.
See your big Edwin turn into a tiny 4-cost minion.
Quickly.
Rock Nest Drake. Alright, well, it's a reborn minion, but has to clear it with the Twin Tyrant, which doesn't feel great. It's okay. That's it. Monsanto bows out, and that means Eddie is the winner of the series, 3-1.
There you go. And a really good mulligan decision from Eddie ends up kind of helping him coast with lack of pressure from Rogue.
Yeah.
We mentioned how Rogue still could potentially struggle against the two remaining classes here. And Monsanto just really wasn't able to get there. So another defeat for Monsanto, which puts him, I believe, in an even standings position with Now Gidan going into the final match of the season for these players.
Yeah, I believe that was the point. Nalgidan did win, so he did get his first win, of course, in Grandmasters, in the division anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, a pretty significant win there for Eddie. He's also locked in his playoff spot for next week. And then for Saiyan, too, an opportunity for him to also potentially move back up. or rather retain his position. Because right now, Sane, I think, was 6th, and that's like the absolute bottom of which he wanted to be in.
Yeah, he's at the cutoff right now.
And with his loss today to Nagidan, he was really hoping Monsanto wouldn't win. So for Saiyan fans out there, that was also a really potentially huge outcome.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to get knocked onto that relegation bracket.
Oh, you do not. So with that brings us to our halftime for today. It's been 2 pretty intense matches back and forth, but that leads us to our extended break. And so when we come back from halftime, we're going to get ready for series number 3 with Zalay versus Frozen, and then wrap things up with Papa Jason versus ETC. So don't go anywhere. Hang tight. Be back in a few with more Hearthstone Grandmasters action with the Americas.
Hearthstone Grandmasters is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network. T-Mobile. Hello, everybody.